90s nostalgia, Tarantino and Guy Ritchie style violence and characters. Dulquer Salmaan making his OTT debut with the kings of OTT themselves, Raj and DK, who are in their top form. Despite so many of my favorite elements coming in together, I have to confess that after the first few episodes of Netflix's brand new series Guns and Gulaabs, I almost gave up. And my request to you as an audience is this. If you're tempted to quit halfway during the show, please don't and watch until the end. A small town like Gulabganj is a fertile land for sprawling violent stories like we've seen in Gangs of Wasseypur, Mirzapur and Tabbar. And it was exciting to see Raj and DK get out of their comfort zone of contemporary Mumbai and create a universe bigger than ever before, and the effort shows. There are a dozen different characters seemingly unrelated to each other with motives of different scale. There's a sweet and meek mechanic called Tipu, who wants to confess his love for the teacher at the local school, a bunch of schoolboys trying to deal with their hormones, with one of them whose part-time job is to be a freelance writer of love letters for one-side lovers like Tipu, an aging Don Ganchi who rules Gulabganj and its opium trade, wanting to pass on his legacy to his son Jugnu aka Chotu, trying to earn and live up to that legacy himself. Dulquer Salmaan as Arjun, an honest cop who's just arrived in town to investigate this opium mafia, who is even cuter when he tries to say bench. A maniacal villain called Char Cut Atmaram, who we'll talk about in just a bit, and so many more quirky characters who we are waiting to see how they'll be linked to the plot. But the problem is the plot itself, or rather how much time the screenplay and the characters take to get to the plot. I agree that the treatment of a long form web series is way different from that of a film. While a film is much more plot driven and has to engage and entertain the audience within 2 hours, TV shows are much more character driven and make the audience spend time with these characters, engaging in mundane tasks and exploring how they react to regular scenarios, making us relate to them no matter how unrelatable their eventual actions may be. But even though there are some standout sequences, like how the mythology of Charkat Atmaram is introduced, or the one with Pana Tipu and a bunch of boys who mostly don't understand English sit around in a field and are lost in the music of Bryan Adams, which is such a quintessential 90s moment of how we used to all enjoy music together before Walkman, MP3 players and Spotify even came along. Or how there are butterflies in the air each time TJ Bhanu as Lekha appears on screen, the Wes Anderson inspired frames by Pankaj Kumar that place the characters in corners or centers of a static postcard perfect shot, or the extremely charming closing credits with each name styled as a different 90s element. Just like a mango bite candy, where there are so many different flavors you taste when it touches your tongue, there's a lot to love in Guns and Gulabs, but the treatment in the early episodes makes you tired of chewing the candy, starting to lose its taste slowly. The attempt to develop characters who are interesting on paper get tiring after repetitive scenes, insignificant and uninteresting subplots that distract us from the actual plot which refuses to get going. Even the trademark Raj and DK humor, which is so prevalent whether it's in dialogues of Family Man or the set pieces like the paper heist sequence in Farzi, it's all either mostly missing in the earlier episodes or it doesn't completely translate to the audience who's looking for something to grab onto. Even though there was nothing to hate as such, I felt cold and disconnected. And by episode 3, I almost gave up, but since it was the weekend, I decided to stay on, and by episode 5, the show slowly starts picking up. And without spoiling any further, whatever the initial episodes lacked in terms of action or humor or twists or keeping the audience at the edge of the sofa, Raj and DK saved the best for last. The final 2-parter episode with an actual interval in the middle is the culmination. It goes back and forth in time to show us how these different characters who should have nothing to do with each other land up in that one situation that we've seen in multiple Guy Ritchie movies like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, giving us that much needed. Apart from every other standout element that I mentioned, there are 3 characters and 3 performances that sustain your interest with each ticking episode. Firstly, Adarsh Gourav. In his limited filmography since his debut in My Name is Khan back in 2010, Adarsh has given us some unforgettable characters, especially as Balram in The White Tiger, and here he takes on a totally different kind of beast. The role of a son who just wants his father's love or even his acknowledgement. For Rajkummar Rao, this role reminds us of so many of his previous roles like Ludo or Gangs of Wasseypur, but even despite that hangover, it feels fresh because of the effortless charm and the humor and the look of helplessness he brings into every frame which makes his character's transformation so much more impactful. And even within that transformation, his helplessness is intact when he forgets his shawl at a certain point and hurries to bring it back. But easily the most unforgettable and standout performance of the entire series, a character that deserves his own spin-off series, is Charkat Atmaram, played by Gulshan Devaiah. I've been watching Gulshan from his initial roles in That Girl in Yellow Boots to Shaitan to the superb Hunter to one of my favorite double role performances of all time as Karate Mani and Jimmy in Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, and despite such memorable roles, it still feels like the industry never really gave him his due credit until his latest new chapter in OTT. And in 2023 alone, he's already given 2 stellar back-to-back performances as Devilal Singh, the progressive father come helpless police officer in The Hard, and as the hilarious, unpredictable, scary, maniacal Atmaram, who finishes his victims in 4 slashes of his knife. A rural legend that's a combination of a slasher villain from 80s horror movies, Sanjay Dutt from the 90s, and Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. Every time he's forced to speak on the phone at a telephone booth, when he's sitting in an Andhra mess hearing the owner scold his son in Telugu, when he's narrating his own legend to his sidekicks, or when an unknowing character confronts him and his eyes actually turn red. At any point in time, you have no idea what the character is going to do or how he's going to make you feel. Whether he's going to make you laugh, scared, or laugh uncomfortably in fear. And it's so much fun to see him and Rajkummar Rao to go from being deeply in love partners in Badai Do to adversaries here in Guns and Gulaabs, another reason to keep your interest ticking in the series. But like I already said before, even if you feel like giving up halfway through the series, please stick around and watch till the end. And let me know what you thought of Guns and Gulaabs in the comments. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.